Imagine having a piece of NBA history in your hands. Not just a jersey or an autograph, but the final game ball ever used in one of the most iconic arenas in sports history. A ball passed from legend to legend. A ball that symbolized the end of an era. Now imagine accidentally tossing that piece of history in the trash. Well, that's exactly what Larry Bird did. And this isn't a myth. This isn't a maybe someday story. This actually happened. Today we're going to dive deep into that story, not just into the moment, but into what it says about legacy, about memory, and about how sometimes even the most important pieces of history can be lost in the snow.
Here's putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep and it's all over. Johnny Havlicek stole the ball.
It's over. The Boston Celtics are the NBA World Champions. In the Larry. There you have it.
Larry Bird, three-time NBA champion, three-time MVP, Boston icon, walked away from the final game played at the old Boston Garden with one mission: take the last game ball home. He had arranged it with a friend in the Celtics organization. The final game was against the New York Knicks. The arena was packed with legends: Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, John Havlicek, all there to say goodbye to the Garden. And in a moment full of symbolism, the ball was passed through the hands of Celtics greats until it reached Bird. It wasn't just a souvenir, it was a torch, a memory in the form of leather and seams. And Bird brought it home. But that's where the story takes a turn. Because Larry didn't lock it away. He didn't even frame it. He didn't even put it on a mantle. Instead, his wife unknowingly gave it to their kids. And the kids? Well, they played with it outside, in the snow. And just like that, the ball was ruined, soaked, weathered, forgotten. Bird eventually threw it away, not fully realizing until much later that he had tossed a living artifact of basketball history into the trash. When a memorabilia collector later asked about it, Bird recalled by saying, "I really don't tell anybody the story because it's pretty historic. The last ball of the Boston Garden and you threw it in the trash?" the collector asked, and Bird responded with, "Well, I did." Now let's pause for a second. This isn't just funny or ironic, it's deeply revealing, because what we're talking about here isn't just about a ball. It's about how personal memory often collides with public legacy. For Bird, that moment was intimate, that final game was emotional, but at home, he wasn't Larry Legend. He was just dad. And to his kids, that ball was just, well, a ball. It's easy to forget sometimes that legends are still human just like us. They live in houses, they raise kids, and sometimes they accidentally throw away a piece of NBA history. But it also shows something else, how easily pieces of legacy can slip through the cracks. That ball wasn't protected by glass or encased in a museum. It was outside in the snow. So many of us collect things: jerseys, ticket stubs, signed basketballs. But here was the ultimate collector's item, and it disappeared like it never mattered. So let's ask the obvious question. What would that ball be worth today? Well, it's really hard to estimate, but consider this. Michael Jordan's final game-worn jersey from his Bulls career sold for $10.1 million. A pair of his sneakers sold for over $2 million. A Wilt Chamberlain game ball from the night he scored 100 points sold for over $550,000. Now imagine the last basketball ever played in the Boston Garden. A ball touched by Cousy, Russell, Havlicek, and handed to Bird in a game designed to say goodbye to a building that housed 16 championships. Conservatively, that ball could fetch anywhere from $500,000 to over $1 million at auction, maybe even more if authenticated with footage, interviews, and a chain of custody. But more than the price, it's the symbolism. That ball wasn't just a collector's item, it was a closing chapter in NBA history. And now, gone to the snow. To understand why this story matters, you need to understand what the Boston Garden was. Built in 1928, the Garden was cramped, gritty, poorly ventilated, but absolutely magical. The parquet floor became a symbol. It wasn't perfect, in fact, it was famously warped. But it was home to basketball royalty. This was the arena where Bill Russell dominated with 11 rings, where John Havlicek stole the ball, where Larry Bird had his MVP years, and with the greatest rivalry in basketball history, Magic Johnson vs. Larry Bird, was born on a professional stage. The Celtics won 16 championships in that building. It wasn't just a place, it was a shrine. Ask anyone who played there. It was loud, it was tight, and it was intense. Players really felt it. Fans felt it as well, and opponents hated it. It was the kind of building that helped create a dynasty. Now, it is important we touch on the Bird vs Magic rivalry, because yes, their story started in 1979 in the NCAA championship game, but the NBA version of that rivalry, it was forged in the heat of the Boston Garden and the Showtime Lakers Forum. Game 7s, clutch shots, elbows, trash talk, respect, all of it happened in the Garden. When Magic stepped into that building, it wasn't just a road game, it was a war. And for Bird, every time he played Magic in that arena, it was a battle for legacy. These weren't just basketball games, these were cultural events. That's what makes the final game ball so valuable. It carried the weight of all those moments, all those showdowns, the cheers, the boos, the banners, and now, gone with the snow. So what about today? Well, the TD Garden, originally the Fleet Center, is modern, clean, comfortable, and profitable. It's hosted legends of its own, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen. It's home to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown now. But if we're honest, it doesn't have the soul of the old Garden. Not yet. That's not a criticism, that's just the reality of history. The original Boston Garden had bad seats, no AC, and paint chipping off the walls, but it had ghosts. It had echoes of greatness. The new Garden has time. In another 50 years, TD Garden might hold that same weight. But right now, it's like comparing a luxury condo to your grandparents' old house. Sure, the condo's nicer, but the old house meant something. The Larry Bird ball story is funny, it's painful, it's human. It reminds us that history is fragile. It reminds us that sometimes the most meaningful things aren't protected by glass cases or locked behind security systems. They're sitting in backyards, getting ruined by the snow. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the fact that the last Boston Garden ball was played with by kids is kind of poetry. The game goes on. Legends pass it down even if they don't realize it. But for those of us who love the game, it's also a reminder. Don't take these moments for granted. Don't let these memories get lost in the snow. Don't let these memories fade into the distance before ever recalling them and reliving them in your own mind. So what do you guys think? Should Larry Bird have done more to protect that ball? Or does the fact that it was used by his kids give it even more meaning? And what was your favorite memory of the old Boston Garden if you can remember it? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story and want more deep dives into basketball history, NBA legends, and a whole lot more, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. My name is Damian Peters, this is Basketball Network, and we'll see you in the next one.